There's a yellowing vintage dinner program in the collection of the Studio of Prunus Ode that invokes and recalls the illustrious history of the founding of the United Nations by the Republic of China. On 25th April, in the 34th year of the Republic, 1945, the opening ceremony of the United Nations Conference on International Organization took place in San Francisco. It is also known as the San Francisco Conference. Delegates from 50 countries worked together to formulate the United Nations Charter. The Republic of China, the United States, the United Kingdom, and the Soviet Union are the 4 founding members of the United Nations. The Republic of China was also one of the 5 members of the United Nations Security Council. On 26 June 1945, delegates from the Republic of China, the United States, the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, and the other member countries signed the United Nations Charter. The Republic of China is the first country to fight against the invasion of an Axis power. In order to convey unanimous respect by the international community, the Republic of China was invited to be the first signatory. The delegation of the Republic of China, including head delegate Koo Vi Kyuin and the other 7 delegates, Wang Ch'ung-hui, 1881 to 1958, Wei Tao-ming, 1899 to 1978, Yi-fang, 1893 to 1985, Huang, 1895 to 1991, Chang Chün-mai, 1887 to 1969, Tung Pi-wu, 1886 to 1975, Huang, 1889 to 1949, preceded those delegates from other member countries in the signing of the United Nations Charter. On 24th October in the same year, the United Nations Charter came into effect after being ratified by the majority of the member countries. The first meeting of the first session of the United Nations General Assembly took place between 10th January to 14th February 1946 at the Methodist Central Hall in London. Delegates from 51 countries attended. The second meeting of the first session of the United Nations General Assembly took place between 23rd October to 15th December 1946 at the former World's Fair site in Flushing Meadows Corona Park. In the evening of 11th November 1946, the Foreign Press Association of the United States invited the heads of delegations to the General Assembly and the Security Council of the United Nations to a dinner banquet at the Waldorf-Astoria Hotel in New York. The dinner program in the collection of the Studio of Prunus Ode is a trifold brochure. The inner pages are decorated with caricatures drawn by Alois Derso and Emery Callan, the illustration artists. On the blank panel at the back of the dinner program, there are 3 handwritten signatures, one by Koo Vi Kyuin, head delegate of the Republic of China, one by Ernest Bevin, Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom, and one by Alexandre Pahodie, head delegate of the French Republic. There is no record regarding the number of head delegates to the General Assembly and the Security Council who attended the dinner banquet on 11th November. However, it is possible to make an approximation. In the Studio of Prunus Ode, there is a copy of the seating arrangement for the luncheon hosted by the City of New York for the delegates to the General Assembly on 23rd October 1946. The venue was also located at the Waldorf-Astoria Hotel in New York. According to the seating arrangement, approximately 908 persons attended the luncheon, excluding a few whose names were not recorded. 95 of them sat at the 5 head tables raised on dais. "57 were head delegates from member countries, and 38 were eminent Americans from the fields of politics, armed forces, and commerce. The number of head delegates who attended the 11th November dinner should be the same number as those who attended the 23rd October luncheon, that is, a total of 57. Although 3 additional member countries, Afghanistan, Iceland, and Sweden, joined the United Nations during the second meeting of the first session, the Security Council did not approve their memberships until 19th November. Therefore, the delegates from these 3 countries were not invited to the 23rd October luncheon, and they were most likely absent from the 11th November dinner. It is difficult to verify the number of attendants on behalf of the Foreign Press Association or other related American institutions. One can nevertheless ascertain the number of head delegates to be around 57. Printed on the inner left panel of the dinner program is a list of host and guest speakers. The order of speakers is as follows. 1. Simon Coster, President of the Foreign Press Association, host of the dinner. 2. Paul-Henri Spark, President of the United Nations General Assembly. 3. Koo Vi Kyuin, Chairman of the Chinese Delegation. 4. Alexandre Pahodie, Chairman of the French Delegation. 5. Ernest Bevin, Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom. 6. James Burns, Secretary of State of the United States. 7. The name Vyacheslav Molotov, Chairman of the Soviet Delegation was not printed on this panel. He accepted the invitation to speak only after the printing of the dinner program. Hence, a separate card with his printed name was attached to the menu by a paper clip. After the addresses by Simon Coster, president of the Foreign Press Association, and Paul-Henri Spark, president of the United Nations General Assembly, the speaker to follow was Koo Vi Kyuin, chairman of the Chinese delegation. The order of speakers at the dinner is ample testimony of the exalted international status and prestige of the Republic of China 1 year after the end of the Second World War. Printed on the inner right panel of the dinner program is the menu. It is rich in American flavors, which pervade the dishes, dessert, and wine that night. The first course is lobster and crab meat Louis. The second course is Petite Marmite Henry IV. The third course is hearts of celery, ripe and green olives. The fourth course is sirloin of beef chasseur with small roasted potatoes and new spring beans sauté. The fifth course is Manhattan Rocher with petite force. The sixth course is demi-tasse or coffee. The wine offered was George de Latour Private Reserve Cabernet 1940 from Napa Valley, California. The Waldorf-Astoria Hotel was built in 1931 and became a world-famous venue for luxurious banquets and balls. It was 47 stories high and kept the world record as the tallest building until 1963. Many of the United Nations luncheons and dinners for eminent diplomats and politicians were hosted here. As for the illustrations depicted on the inner three panels of the dinner program, there are altogether 18 caricatures of delegates or representatives from numerous countries. They were drawn by Alois Derso and Emery Callan. Each caricature dresses in the national costume of another country rather than his own, to emphasize and to acknowledge the essence of the English words at the top of the inner middle panel. One world. These words are a symbol for the world to come together as one, for countries to regard each other as one, for everyone to aspire to the concept of universal brotherhood. Printed on the inner middle panel of the dinner program, there are 6 caricatures. 1. Trygve Lie, Secretary General of the United Nations and former Foreign Minister of Norway, is attired in a dress coat. 2. James Francis Burns, United States Secretary of State, is dressed in a Chinese costume. He holds a sheet with the word yes written 5 times repeatedly, according to the phonetic sounds of different languages. The first word da means yes for Russians, Croatians, Serbians, Bulgarians, and Romanians. The second word oui means yes for French. The third word si means yes for Spanish and Italian. The fourth word si means yes for Chinese. The fifth word yes is for English-speaking countries. The words are placed there to highlight universal support for the concept of one world. 3. Koo Vi Kyuin, chairman of the Chinese delegation, is dressed in a French costume. 4. Alexandre Pahodie, chairman of the French delegation, is dressed in an American Western costume. 5. Vyacheslav Molotov, chairman of the Soviet delegation and foreign minister, is dressed in a Scottish costume. 6. Ernest Bevin, British Foreign Secretary, is dressed in a Soviet costume. Printed on the inner right panel of the dinner program, there are another 6 caricatures. 7. Dmitry Manusky, permanent representative of the Ukrainian delegation, is dressed in an American Indian costume. 8. Andrei Gromyko, permanent representative of the Soviet delegation, is dressed in an Austrian costume. 9. Tom Connolly, first delegate of the United States delegation and senator, is dressed in a Greek costume. 10. Herbert Vere Abbott, chairman of the Australian delegation and Minister for External Affairs, is dressed in a Mexican costume. 11. Jan Masaryk, chairman of the Czech delegation and foreign minister, is dressed in a Swiss costume. 12. Elko van Kleffens, permanent representative of the Dutch delegation, is dressed in a Turkish costume. Printed on the inner left panel of the dinner program, there are 6 more caricatures. 13. Warren Robinson Austin, American ambassador to the United Nations, is dressed in a Polish costume. 14. Paul-Henri Spaak, President of the United Nations General Assembly and Foreign Minister of Belgium, is dressed in a Thai costume. 15. Sir Alexander Cadogan, British Permanent Representative to the United Nations, is dressed in a Dutch costume. 16. Arthur Vandenberg, delegate of the United States delegation and senator, is dressed in a Syrian costume. 17. Prado Leo Veloso, chairman of the Brazilian delegation, is dressed in an Egyptian costume. 18. Saul Bloom, chairman of the United States House Committee on Foreign Affairs and member of the House of Representatives, is dressed in an Indian costume. The illustration artists Alois Derso, 1888 to 1964, and Emery Callan, 1896 to 1978, were both Hungarians who collaborated together in their artistic endeavors. During the period of 1920 to 1930, they were renowned for using cartoons and caricatures to chronicle and deride political and diplomatic events. They both worked as reporters for the League of Nations in Geneva. With the rise of anti-Semitism in Germany, they fled to the United States at the end of 1938. In 1948, they went their separate ways and dissolved their collaboration. In 1950, a compilation of their past works was published under the title A Cartoon History of the United Nations. It is not known to whom this dinner program previously belonged. It should be the property of someone who attended the dinner on 11th November 1946, who was also interested in history and autographs. Perhaps the person was a member of the Foreign Press Association. At that time, the Republic of China was one of the 4 founding members of the United Nations. Koo Vi Kyuin was the chairman of the Chinese delegation and ambassador to the United States. For him to be the first person to sign his autograph on the back of the dinner program was congruous with the order of speakers at the dinner. Perusing his autograph summons the distant memory of 1945, when Koo Vi Kyuin led the delegates from all member countries to sign the United Nations Charter. After the Second World War, the Republic of China was in her finest moment. Nations in the West still regarded China as a country that epitomized the ancient Confucian civilization. Chinese diplomats were among the finest men of their generation, steeped in learning and fortified by rectitude. Koo Vi Kyuin was himself celebrated internationally. Harking back to the past and contemplating the present, disconsolations are certain to be ceaseless. We can nonetheless seek inspirations in ancient historical stories. That of Zhu Di, a military general of the Jin dynasty, 266 to 420, who beat his oar in the middle of the river crossing and swore never to return until the recovery of China lost. That of Huang Emperor, who restored the Han dynasty 202 BC to 220 AD from chaos and reinstated the propriety of China past. We can aspire to seek that China lost.